Support for the show comes from Amazon Prime. You might think of Prime as only a way to get fast, free delivery, or maybe as the place to stream movies, shows, and sports. But it's actually way more than that. Maybe you've got a passion or a hobby. Prime can help you get the most out of it. Whether you're streaming documentaries on marine animals, ordering action figure stands with free one-day delivery, or finding the perfect playlist to impress that special someone, Prime makes it easier and faster to do what you love. Whatever you're into, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into. Hey everyone, welcome to Serve the French Open Recap Edition, brought to you by Amazon Prime. JW checking in before he takes a flight back home. JW, how do we unpack this fortnight?
Oh man! Bear in mind, I still my pulse is still quickened by. We're like an hour away from that final, which was just a spellbinding tennis match. Where to begin? I was struck. Very first day of the tournament 2 weeks ago, we honored and gave great tribute to Rafa Nadal. Yeah, it was for the 14 titles and for just sort of the 6 statistics he put together here. It was also what? It was for who he was. Persistent and professional and pugnacious and physical and words that don't start with P. It was really about what Rafa represented. And here we are 2 weeks later, same court, same time. And what do we get? Another Spaniard that really encapsulates us. We sort of started with a tip of the cap to Rafa and, Coco Gauff and her virtues we can get in as well. She overlaps with a lot of that. But to have another Spaniard win this title, second year in a row for Carlos in that fashion, I mean, we could do a whole hour on that match and still have topics left unsaid, but that's sort of the overarching theme. And I also think, you just take a step back, and I'd say it hasn't been the greatest year so far for tennis. We've had players that are injured. We sort of had this story of the number one player who was serving this 90-day ban tied to a doping controversy, and then you came here and everything's all right again. And I'm thinking about, the conflict alert is that I worked for TNT here, but I'm just thinking of those guys. You pay a lot of money, you come into tennis, you broadcast this event, and what do you get? 1 versus 2 in the women, 1 versus 2 in the men, Novak making it till the end, the one interloper is a French player, and then one of the greatest tennis matches ever played. I feel like saying to TNT, guys, walk away. It's only going downhill from here. Or else you say to them, yeah, that's about right. Yeah, they always, that's about pretty standard event. That's about how they go. But yeah, if you're a first time television network and you got this weekend, you're very happy. But yeah, it was a great event. And honestly, not all events are. I mean, there are 4 of these every year, and there are a lot of permutations. This was just extraordinary. And that last shot of the tournament that Carlos hit. I'm just, I still have pit stains from an hour ago from watching 5.5 hours of that, and I didn't have to hit a ball. That was just, that wasn't just like a great tennis match, and that even wasn't just a great sporting event. That was just great theater. I mean, that was just absolutely spellbinding. And tennis may have its flaws, but I would hold that match up as, find me another sport that can replicate that and get back to me.
No, you can't. Do you know what this was for TNT? Do you remember? You guys might not get this because your mind's gonna go to other places, but there's only one answer. The best feeling on earth when you're a kid. Do you guys know what that is?
No, tell us.
You know what this was for TNT, like the adult version? This was the equivalent of those doors sliding open, the air hitting your face, the smell of walking into a Toys R Us when you're 7 years old. You remember that? And they made you go the long way around, and then you had to and your parents would be like, if you did this, you get to go Toys R Us, and you would run in and just go, ah, and just freak out. That's whatever that feeling has to be what's going on at TNT after this tournament. But listen, tennis is showing out. How in the same tournament can you say goodbye to a 14-time Roland Garros champion and a formal hello to someone 361 in the world who is playing in a match at a stage of the tournament of which you played in that many times with Boisson? And how do you make real a lot of the virtues that Rafa has and that we said goodbye to are fully represented by Coco, by Carlos, by Jannik Sinner having to stand up there after that disappointment. And I'll tell you, you can hide the emotion as long as you don't have to say anything or look at anyone you care about, right? And for him to stand up there and give that speech, and for Coco to handle everything with grace and with a laugh sometimes when she's probably pissed about stuff, and rightfully so. Listen, it's just I'm just proud of our sport. I'm proud of the people. I'm proud of the way it presents. I'm proud that I can say it's the hardest sport in the world. You can't watch what we watched over the last 2 weeks. You can't skip steps. Just because you're the number 1 draft pick doesn't mean you get voted into the All-Star team. If you're Fonseca, you still have to earn your stripes and go through the Jack Drapers and do all of the things. I don't know, JW. Like you've covered a lot of slams, and my view is biased on a lot of them because if I lost early in a slam, I pretty much pretended like it didn't exist for the next 10 or 12 or 14 days. How does this stack up with French Opens that you've covered before?
Recency bias. I'll see you and I'll raise you. I grant you, I'm an hour removed from the greatest match I've seen, at least in the last 15 years or so. But this was just first ball to last ball, an extraordinary tournament. There were teenagers. There was a 38-year-old man who got to the semifinals and then kissed the court. There was drama. There was a local player. There was flair. Even a junior with a one-handed backhand won the girls' title. I mean, it just really showed off the virtues of tennis. The greatest controversy was a guy kicking a ball that happened to brush a linesman. I mean, there was no sort of moral ambiguity. There was no great controversy. The weather cooperated. There was a new TV partner that did things different. I mean, this really was just, from my vantage point, an ideal tennis tournament, and it really it sort of restores faith in the sport. I think the best of tennis really came to the fore. I just that last Rafa on the first day and those last 20 minutes on the very same court at the very same time of day by the 1 and 2 players were nice bookends, but there was a lot of virtue in between. I think we got a lot of momentum going into Wimbledon. It was just a great tournament, and you and I are unflagging fans, and we'll always find stories. But if you're sort of the casual tennis fan, I feel like there's this suction, this vortex that's bringing you back to the sport right now.
Yeah, I can always tell when like massive moments happen in tennis because I get a flood of texts over the course of hours from people that kind of watch tennis but are like sports fans, and then they get drawn in. And I got a lot of them with Coco's match and the drama of the day and the wind and the histrionics between the two players and the whole thing. And then we get to Alcaraz and Sinner, and that just absolute presentation of athleticism and mental toughness on all sides. And I just don't know where we go from here. And it's so strange because Wimbledon, the kind of the old traditional one, I mean, there's so many great storylines going into this tournament, and I just feel so excited. It feels like tennis is on this wave of popularity and respect, and but doing it the right way with Rafa leaving and Coco not missing a beat. It just did it. I guess the answer is going to be yes. So I'll try to ask a better question, but how are the vibes different than, like, say, pre-COVID? And if we're going to ask a smarter question, of the people, like the participation rates in tennis went through the roof during something horrible, right? COVID was one of those things that you could do, and it feels like we're turning people who participated in tennis into fans of tennis. And there's just no chance, if you've seen the last 5 years of our game, that you're not going to be here for life.
Right. One of the knocks on tennis, there were a couple of them, right? And one of them was sort of, it was this country club sport. And then you say, well, I don't know. I look out at the field and, the 38-year-old man certainly did not come from great wealth. Neither did a lot of these players playing. And then the other knock on tennis was sort of, it's a wimpy sport. You go watch what Coco brought to the table first. And first of all, I mean, I think somehow Coco remains, in a weird way, and I mean this as a compliment, underrated. She is a treasure. And she is so cool and wise and precociously adult. And yet she has this childlike sensibility and there's no cynicism. And oh, yeah, she's also won 2 majors and she's like would be a college junior. And then you look at Carlos and Sinner. I don't think a lot of people are going to be calling this a wimp sport after watching what those guys did for 5.5 hours. And I think some of this is about, you can play the sport, you can have a 20-year career, you can play the sport, and you're Carlos Alcaraz, and there's no doubt about his level of athleticism. You can have the body of Sinner, which is not the body of Carlos. We're wondering about rivalry after the big 3. Well, guess what? Here are 2 guys in their early 20s, and there is not a player whose surname is anything other than Sinner or Alcaraz has won a major since 2023. So we've got a 1-2 rivalry and a big staircase down to the next level. I think Coco, an American, wins on clay. We haven't even talked about that. It just storylines abundant, feel-good stories abundant, and I think some of this is individual, and Coco gets elevated, good for her, and Carlos Alcaraz now enters that sort of Federer, Nadal, Lamine Yamal, Mbappe, really global superstar level. But I think the sport as a way to sort of invest your time, energy, fandom, athleticism. I think tennis really won big here as well.
So you said a couple things, like the country club sport narrative, I think is just lazy. If you look at 2 of the greatest champions we've ever had, they came out of Compton, California, like where their dad's defending their practices. I mean, it's like, it's absurd. If you look at the best resume in male tennis history, he grew up in a war-torn country. The star of the last weekend from the media side, Andre Agassi's dad is from Iran and worked the door for tips at Caesar's Palace. So you can miss me with that shit. Like you can absolutely miss me with that narrative. And as far as like a wimpy sport, like is there another sport where finely tuned athletes run their bodies to the point of exhaustion where we regularly see people cramp and or talk about it 2 hours in because it might happen?
Wait, let me add something to that. I'll give you part B to that, which is, and they want to do that. Every other sport, they want a shorter season, they want fewer games, they want load management, they want to control their minutes. These tennis players, they don't have to do this. They could very easily say, we want to play less. This is ripping up. You know what? To a person, they all want best of 5 tennis. In that match we got today, 5 hours and 29 minutes. I'm just looking at the stats, by the way. Sinner winning 1 more point. You do something for 5, it's that close. And these guys want to be playing match. I think this is something that's lost too often. These guys, by choice, are playing these long matches that require this level of endurance and concentration. I mean, I really leave, as long as I've been doing this, I leave this event feeling better about tennis than perhaps I ever have.
I yelled a cuss word at my phone like 3 weeks ago because my starter in fantasy baseball got pulled from the game after pitching 3 innings because he had a cramp in his calf. He was indoors. He was indoors. So you can miss me with the wimpy soft narrative, and you can pretty much just miss me forever with that narrative. You're not going to go in the dugout and have someone say, it's okay, we got a reliever, you can be done for a week. Support for the show comes from Amazon Prime. You might know Prime for fast, free delivery, or maybe as your favorite place to stream shows, movies, and sports. But it's also a great way to dive deeper into your hobbies and passions. Into cooking? You can buy new cutlery at the same time you watch your favorite cooking show on Prime Video. Into crafting? Prime can be your gateway to a kingdom of yarn and felt. Is it finally time to fix those broken drawers? It was a year ago. You can find the tools on Prime. If you're thinking about picking up a new hobby, Prime makes it easy to dive in, from getting how-to books to making playlists on Amazon Music that keep you pumped while you organize your new model trains. Prime helps you go from, maybe I'll try it, to, I am now obsessed with this in no time. We've used Prime to buy this microphone and the light and the flashy thing that producer Mike and techie Sean are always pressing. We use Prime for everything. Whatever you're into, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.
We talk about 1 versus 2, right? And this is the first time in more than a decade that both draws served up. The names on the bottom, the names on the top. I will point out, I should probably have done this earlier. You were right, I was wrong. It's only off by a point, but
No,
Carlos
there's
didn't
no
win.
rider. After watching that one, there's no peacocking over that. Those guys were animals in the best way.
So imagine saying not only. I mean, I keep laughing at this TNT aspect of this in your maiden year. But anyway, so say the number 1 and the number 2 seeds are going to do battle. And not only that, these matches are going to go 6-4 in the third, and then a 5th set, shoot them up, first to 10, super tie break, which, by the way, is the best way to end a match. I think we can all agree. But not only do you have 1 versus 2 in both draws, which hadn't happened in a decade, hadn't happened in 40-some years here, but to have the matches end with that level of theater and that level of sort of depth digging by all 4 players, I really think if tennis can get better than this, like, game on. But 2025 French Open / Roland Garros really set the bar.
Yeah, I think this is one of those tournaments where you're going to, I think it was 17 Oz Open, like maybe Venus and Serena played, and then Roger came back, and it was Roger. Like it was. There's certain tournaments where you kind of just remember everyone who was involved in those events and the certain matchups and the way the draws played out and like the oh shit moments. And this will certainly be one of those for a long time to come. I don't know that we have heard the last of this. I think this lends itself to a bunch of storylines. I think going into Wimbledon, if we could just spend 5 minutes taking a peek forward to the next month of our season, I said after Novak lost, I said he can win Wimbledon still. I think this was a great. I don't know that I believe that he could still win Roland Garros, and I say that cautiously because every time I say something, he ends up doing the impossible. But I do think he is a major contender at Wimbledon. I think he's right in there with Carlos and Sinner. I think Sabalenka, I would love to see like a Sabalenka Coco rematch after all things go down there. But I mean, JW just spent a couple of minutes. Jack Draper.
Reaching another British player, right?
Reaching superstardom this season, and then going into that hype machine that happens around the British players there. This is just going to be a massive magnifying glass, and there's a lot of stories to tell. But hey, maybe let's ask the journalist.
Sometimes we talk about how this cockamamie tennis schedule. It's great that there's another major. You're coming off of this, and 22, whatever it is, 22 days from now, we're going to start another major. That's great. Strike while the iron's hot. But yeah, I mean, I think Sabalenka on grass. I mean, bear in mind there was that silly Russian / Belarusian ban. And last year she had to pull. She didn't play a match. She was injured. She can play on grass, and she can play really
Big
well.
time.
When you think about her game and her athleticism, I mean, I'm not sure. Even after this debacle Saturday, I think she's still the favorite at Wimbledon. Where did Coco?
No. Just time out. She's absolutely the favorite at Wimbledon.
Over. I'd say Sabalenka 1, Coco 2, Maddie 3. I don't know. Coco's not
I don't want to get into rankings and but like, I'm just telling you, there's a lot that goes right for Coco as soon as she steps on a clay court. Time on the floor, like, listen, she's amazing, but that doesn't mean her spaces where she needs to work change immediately. Rybakina is going to be on the short list. Maddie's going to be on the short list. Sabalenka is the clear-cut favorite. I don't put a lot of stock into a match. Besides, like, is there going to be a hangover from losing 2 slam finals in a row? And does that affect the psyche? Absolutely. There's not a person to be bet on more confidently than Sabalenka at Wimbledon, just a level set.
No, it's a great. So the number 1 player in the world who's coming off of 2 heartbreaking final losses is trying to win Wimbledon for the first time. That's a pretty good storyline. And the player that just beat her here is also a contender, and the player that beat her in Australia is also a contender. And then on the men's side, this rivalry is just suddenly, because this is next level rivalry now. This is extraordinary. I mean, this was the first time either one of them had ever lost in a major final. And they go out here, they play this match, and they get 5 hours and 29 minutes, and they come within 1 point of each other. So you've got that storyline. And then, there's a top 4 British player who very easily, you think Jack Draper is going to have much attention on him? He's a good-looking guy, lefty, top 4, and you've got a British player to throw into the mix. This sport all of a sudden has storylines galore, and you really get a sense of how different these athletes are, not just as tennis players, but as people. And suddenly, if you see Tim Henman must be smiling. The Wimbledon marketing has just gone into overdrive. So yeah, it's good for tennis that we don't. Sometimes we want more time off. We want more of an off season, but it's great that there is another major event less than a month away.
Yeah, listen, I'm not the one who's asking for more of a break in July. I just think that like you shouldn't have to choose between Christmas and, another event in Australia, just popular opinion. But like listen, we're the best parts of the year are the slams. They're the memory makers, right? They're the ones that support the interest for the rest of the year. And you, as you said, you could not have put together a better marketing campaign for the sport than what we saw the last 2 weeks. I personally want to thank the people that cover tennis. I want to thank the players that are putting out this amazing product. I would have lost our house if you would have told me that this type of momentum would have existed post Roger, post Rafa, post Serena, end of Novak, and here we are again. I would not have bet on it. I certainly didn't expect it, but hell, I promise you I'm thankful for it. Thank you for watching Serve, brought to you by Amazon Prime. JW, travel home safely. Great work over the last couple of weeks. We will see you next week. Thanks for watching. Support for the show comes from Amazon Prime. Prime is more than just fast, free delivery. It's your go-to for streaming music, movies, and sports. Plus, it's also a great way to connect with the things you love. Into skiing? Stream ski films on Prime Video even when the slopes are bare. Love fishing? You can get new gear delivered fast and be back by the water in no time. Planning your next big trip? Prime helps you get everything you need faster than you can write your out-of-office email. Whatever you're into, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.